Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today I want to talk a little bit about the latest report talking about Doctor Who's future. Apparently there are two main streaming services vying for the show's international distribution rights in the wake of Disney most likely leaving the partnership with the BBC. And we're going to be taking a look at this rumour as well as Mark Gattis' recent comments on the deal as well. But before we get into it, do me a teeny little favour and click that subscribe button. We do regular Doctor Who content here on the channel and any support would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. I'd love it if we could get there. But with that said, let's dive right in. Doctor Who, the BBC rumoured to be in talks with Netflix and HBO Max to replace Disney Plus deal. With so much uncertainty surrounding Doctor Who's future, a new report claims that the BBC is in talks with Netflix and HBO Max to take over from Disney as its new streaming partner. Check it out. So the two front runners according to this rumour appear to be HBO Max and Netflix. When the BBC partnered with Disney Plus, the intention was to bring Doctor Who to a bigger audience than ever before. In exchange for the show's streaming rights, the House of Mouse gave the long-running sci-fi series a cash injection, which saw it receive a big budget overhaul. Unfortunately, even with bigger effects and bigger name guest stars, better effects and bigger name guest stars, Doctor Who hasn't proven to be a ratings hit either on television or streaming. Reviews have been mixed, while fans haven't embraced many of returning showrunners Russell T Davies' ideas for the Time Lord. As rumours swirl about what lies ahead for Doctor Who, Scooper My Time to Shine H brings word that Netflix and HBO are both in talks to buy the streaming rights for the series. This comes after it was recently reported that the BBC is currently in advanced talks with a potentially new partner following the collapse of the Disney Plus deal. It was said that at least one of these unnamed partners wants greater creative control and for the series to, quote, take itself more seriously. In doing so, it would shift to an older teenage audience, not the under 12 demographic. Davis, however, strongly opposes the idea, wishes to continue the same campy, child-friendly fun tone that he sees as the key to Doctor Who's long-term success. So yeah, this was the Reddit leak that we covered a while ago. And yeah, basically it just goes on to say Shooty's left the show, Billy Piper's come in, and we don't really know what's going on with season 3, and a couple of quotes there. So the core thing from this is this line. Netflix and HBO are both in talks to buy the streaming rights to the series. And this comes from My Time to Shine H, who I don't really know much about, but according to everyone that I've spoken to, obviously they are like a paid scooper. They do have 185,000 followers, so they seem to, have a pretty, I guess, sizable sort of following and kind of track record for scoops. I don't know how accurate they are. You guys in the comments are going to have to, basically tell me if you guys know, what is his track record. I've heard mixed things about his reliability, so you'll have to let me know. But I want to say that if this is true, I want to just kind of break down the two options that this rumour presents. So the two options, according to this, are Netflix and HBO Max. And as far as I'm concerned, both of these have their own strengths and drawbacks to a potential deal. HBO Max is the one that I imagine would be the most realistic. After all, HBO has a working relationship with the BBC and more specifically Doctor Who, being the exclusive home for Doctor Who 2005 to 2022 since I believe around 2019. So they have a working relationship with the IP and they already have the right to new Doctor Who. So bringing over more Doctor Who to the service might make sense and, it would kind of make it a more all-encompassing place for Doctor Who internationally. The other side to that, though, as far as I know, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, HBO Max is largely American-based. I don't know whether it has the same international reach as something like a Disney Plus does. I can only speak from a UK perspective, but I believe HBO Max is bundled in with Sky over here. I'm not really sure of the specifics of that. Obviously it wouldn't matter to the UK audience anyway, because assuming this works in the same way the Disney deal did, then it would be, on the BBC for us as usual. But I don't know whether HBO Max has the kind of international pull of a Disney Plus or indeed a Netflix, who are the other option. But also, Netflix have their own kind of appeals and drawbacks. Netflix has also been the streaming home for Doctor Who in the past. Doctor Who's streaming rights seem to bounce around all over the place year to year to year. So they also do, in fairness, have some track record with the show and with the BBC as well, of course. They've done various kind of partnerships with the BBC, including recently like the Wallace and Gromit stuff. I know that went out on Netflix in January, but obviously went out on the BBC on Christmas Day, so they are kind of used to these sharing arrangements. The pro to Netflix, of course, is that it's still, I believe, the biggest streaming service of the bunch. It's not really known for having like the big IPs that Disney has, but being basically the first mover, it's still the most subscribed to one. I think internationally, Netflix is still a pretty big deal. The thing that could concern me about Netflix, though, is that they do have a propensity to cancel shows in their infancy, and we are already at a point where Disney are shaking off this deal after 2 series, and I worry that if we went with Netflix, we would essentially be in the same position again a couple series from now. I do think, with that having been said, however, if that rumour is true, that one of the streaming services wants a more dark, serious direction, I could sort of see that being Netflix's ambition, because Netflix are obviously the Stranger Things people, and Stranger Things is kind of like, wrapping up, coming to its end. Those kids aren't getting any younger, and maybe they see Doctor Who as a potential kind of, I guess, thing that they could slot into that kind of demographic, if that makes sense. I don't know, I'm just speculating on that. But according to this anyway, these are the 2 streaming services who are kind of vying for the rights, according to this rumour. Obviously, again, take it, like all rumours, with a pinch of salt. I'd be interested to know which one you guys think would be the better streaming service of the 2. I think both have their benefits and drawbacks. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Doctor Who ends up and what its future is. I guess the one thing that is reassuring about this is that if this is indeed true, multiple major streaming companies are vying for the rights, which indicates that people do still see Doctor Who as a lucrative and, good property to have in their portfolio. We do actually have a more official statement from Mark Gatiss, actually, in a recent interview with Deadline, where he's asked about Doctor Who, and he said, quote, "I don't think anyone knows what is going on with Doctor Who at the moment. All I know is that it's about the Disney deal. We all intuited that it's about the Disney deal, but Gatiss seems more certain than most that Disney is at the crux of it." Obviously, Mark Gatiss is a personal friend of particularly Stephen Moffat, but also, Russell T Davies and all of those people. So he probably is more aware of the, sort of intimate happenings of Doctor Who production than most people are. So if he seems to think that it's to do with the Disney deal, that's why we're waiting on this delay, I assume that is the reason. Obviously, I'm at a point now where I don't think we will know anything about the show's future definitively until we get War Between Land and Sea later this year, because that's when the Disney deal expires. That's the final thing to go out under the Disney umbrella. So I think that Disney are going to play coy until that comes out, which is a little bit annoying, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting at this stage. But this is at least confirmation to me that what we are waiting on is this Disney deal, which we all kind of knew anyway. Let's be honest, we all knew it was Disney who we were waiting on, but it's nice to have that confirmed, I guess. Even though I think by this point we all know that they're probably not going to continue. Realistically, if they were going to continue, we probably would have heard something by now. However, it would be admittedly hilarious if they made us wait all this time and then just commissioned 2 more series, even though I would be annoyed at that, because it would mean the loss of shooting. But that's your latest update on Doctor Who's kind of streaming future. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about all of this stuff in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later.